So hello everyone. Today I'm joined by a YouTuber called Irish Identitarian, who has a vlog talking about national pride and ways of restoring some honour in our fine nation. And I see one of his headings is, which I like, is bringing back the spirit of Ireland. So I've followed for Irish Identitarian for a while now, and I've really enjoyed his videos. So it's a great pleasure to have him today for a small chat. So thanks, Irish Identitarian, for joining me.
Of course, I'm glad to be on such an esteemed platform.
Thanks. um, I guess the most obvious question is, what exactly is identitarianism, and what is that? How does that tie in with Ireland?
Right. Uh, the best way I can explain it is it's kind of like an umbrella term, much like the alt-right is, in that it's been used to basically corral a wide variety of approaches to national identity, but in a European context. It started in France. It spread, of course, through the European nations, originally by the formerly known as Bloc Identitaire, now known as Les Identitaires. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Uh, it's it's quite different in that it brings people from across the political spectrum. You know, you have national Bolsheviks in there, you have
Mhm.
outright fascists in there as well. It's a good healthy mix of not only politics but political and social theory.
Mhm.
Now, what I like about it is that it's kind of had its own breeding ground separate from the English-speaking world, so that it wouldn't be contaminated by it. Uh, you know, if only we could bridge that linguistic gap, we would actually be able to learn a lot from
Okay.
these people because they've actually achieved a lot. They have injected terms into the political discourse like Islamization, the Great Replacement, and remigration.
Okay.
And I think that at heart the Irish are non-English speakers, even though we have contributed greatly to the English language. We have a lot more in common with our brothers and sisters on the mainland than we do with Anglosphere, that being Britain and America. Not that
Mhm.
there's anything wrong with those people. They have they have their own sensibilities,
Mhm.
really.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with that. I mean, I always think that Irish nationalism, it's very different to British nationalism. I mean, I hope I'm not offending English people now, but British nationalism is, it's you see a rally around the flag, and World War One and World War Two, and it's war
Mm.
and fighting, and it's you know British bulldog spirit, and it's dare I say it's a little aggressive. Whereas I find it like Irish nationalism, it's more from the soul, it's the spirit, it's the
It's
music.
poetic.
Yeah, and I find it's a tribal thing, and
Hmm.
I would always think that Irish nationalism is more in touch with like something like Italy, you know. Um, I don't know what you think of that. Like I think Italy, because Italy also had an interesting history, and I think they're also one of the other, like Ireland had a famine, and I think Italy also had a famine, a severe famine. So they kind of had the same understanding of what it means to suffer, you know.
Mm.
Um, and for them it's also, I think, nationalism. It's a cultural thing. It's their food, it's their music, it's their language, as you said, and it's different. You're right. I mean, um, so what about generation identity then? Isn't there a movement in Ireland, and what do you think of those boys?
Oh, Honestly, I haven't seen any evidence to point to the contrary, that the Generation Identity Ireland people aren't just the same people that you find in the NP or Identity Ireland, which, you know, is not a bad thing, but it's not generation identity. It's more like the current alt-right kind of model in Ireland taking on the garb of generation identity. Basically, oh, they hung up banners, let's hang up banners.
Yeah.
You know, the heart and the soul isn't in it. And I think that you can't really replicate that. You have to be French, you have to be German or Belgian to kind of get exactly what's going on there, because it didn't start with banners. It started way before banners, started way bore climbing on top of structures, you know, putting your life at risk. You know, it's a culture, it's almost a military tradition.
Okay. So at the base of your beliefs, then, it's that Ireland has a unique identity, and that it's worth preserving for future generations, and it's worth always holding up our culture, maintaining our culture and our ways of life, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be it. But I would amend that slightly to say that we have a superior culture, not as it stands right now. It's very degraded, and we're swiftly forgetting about it. It's swiftly floating away out of our grasp.
Okay.
And yeah, it must be maintained in spite of the current state of the Irish as they are now.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it's of worldly importance. You know, I have like bizarre historical ideas on that, but you know, at least once it has been recognized that the Irish were the keepers of civilization and brought it to a world that fell into darkness.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we have a tradition of that.
Yeah.
That's something very special that we should be proud of, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's got to do with the island of saints and scholars, isn't it? And when the continent was in the Dark Ages, the Irish monks scrambled to write down as much knowledge as they could before it was destroyed. I guess. Have you seen Michael Tessarian's video about what does he say called the Irish? Do you know that one I'm talking about?
I'm a devout follower of Tessarian, so I've pretty much covered the gamut of his output.
Yeah,
Uh,
I used to follow him years ago. The Irish origins of civilization,
there you go.
and yeah. Oh, I like him, but God, his videos are like 4 hours long, you know.
Yes, he can speak for the Olympics.
And he
Yeah.
goes off in tangents, like, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he would fry your head. Yeah, you're best off just reading his books if
Yeah.
you aren't able to kind of grasp his very particular flow of reasoning.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so he maintains that, and that you know, I think he also maybe tries to link it with Atlantis, the lost city of Atlantis, but I don't know about that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you're going to have to get your hands dirty to kind of see how the little dots connect, and you're going to have to be very cynical about the history that we've been taught, which I personally am. But you know,
yeah,
I keep that to a moderate level when on Irish Identitarian, because you know,
yeah. Do you think that there's a reason why they don't want to talk about our history of the past, or great history or ancient civilization? Is there a reason why they want to put it down?
that's a loaded question, considering I said that I kind of stay away from pushing these alternative history ideas, but we are literally a superior civilization
Yeah.
that has been systematically targeted
Uh-huh.
by uh, by a very particular group of people in the world that they've employed the crown to come and just tear us asunder, change all of our place names, terrorize our children whenever they spoke their native language. You know, you don't get that kind of persistent warfare against a single people in the world. I don't think. I think it's unique to Ireland anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that you've been talking about learning the Irish again, or rekindling your love of the language. Do you think that can you be truly Irish without the language? Is it possible? I mean, what are we missing without the language?
Well, I would love to, you know, quote Pierce and all our founding fathers here, but you know, I have a shit memory for these very eloquent passages, you know. But we are a facsimile of the Irish without our language. It's the language is the root of the consciousness of a people. It contains ideas. It contains perspectives. Without like assimilating into that language, as opposed to simply just learning it, which I'm doing now, and which is just damn near impossible. You cannot fully understand where our people come from. So yeah, you know, I would say that we're kind of plastic patties. As a friend of mine pointed out, that a few decades ago, the Americans would come over and they'd want to taste the Guinness and, I don't know, go to the hills or whatever the fuck Americans do. And they would be called the plastic patties, but now you find the situation has been reversed. Is, you know, that now when American tourists come, they want to really absorb the culture and understand us as a people, and their connection to their ancestors. But we just want to take them to the pub. That's the most interesting place in Ireland, as far as we're concerned, is the pub. And you know, maybe I'm overgeneralizing here, but you know, it's a pretty persistent stereotype, and it must be true. And this is a result, I think, of not just being able to name things properly.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, if we don't know what something's called, how are we supposed to know its value? You know.
Yeah, that's good. I mean. But I do find when I talk to Irish people and we bring up the subject of Irish Oscilga, I mean, generally Irish people do feel in their heart a bit depressed and a bit sad that they can't grasp the language, you know.
Yeah.
It is something at the back of our head niggling away, like, you know. I mean, it is like a black cloud on us, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I personally, speaking for myself, yeah, absolutely. If I were to die tomorrow, you know, I have regrets. I have small regrets. Everyone has regrets, but my main regret would be that I haven't spoken a single bloody sentence of Irish, you know, outside of repeating it in school, you know, to pass the tests.
Yeah.
It also, you know, it's complained about, right? Constantly, oh, they didn't teach it right.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people can say, oh, well, you know, I've learned 4 languages and, you know, why couldn't you learn Irish? You know, you're just lazy. But, you know, these are outliers. These are people who have a particular type of wiring in their brain that I'm sure science will figure out one day.
Yeah.
But we haven't, if we kind of put our finger on what the correct way is of teaching a language, then we can actually say, hey, I have had an injustice done upon me and my country. And it comes down to how children learn language. It's the same the way that adults learn language, despite neuroplasticity and all that. It's called comprehensible input. When we're like 2 or 3 years old, we don't sit down and get taught grammar structure, and our parents don't lecture us on the use of the English language or our native language. We just pick it up bit by bit. And you can tell with a child, they will use a phrase that they've heard before, and they've got a general idea of what it means. Like, get out of my face, get out of my face, just talking to any random person walking past them in the street or something. But this is how it's learned. Not through dictation. If we can find a way to, teach each other in that way, and if it was state sponsored, oh wow, that would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, from my experience, I was teaching English in Asia, and just like the power of language. I mean, people don't realize the power of a language. I mean, like when I was teaching like Chinese and Korean students English, they would tell me that English opened up a part of their brain, to be more creative and be maybe they'd have probably more deep thoughts because of Asian culture. It's just the way it is. It's kind of you follow the leader. It's it's you follow the rules. But it was very interesting that they would be really happy to kind of being able to express themselves totally different through English. So I can only imagine what we're missing out. I mean, like even just the brain, what it does to the brain. I like, as you said, like with calling things by a different language that your ancestors used, calling everyday things.
I can give you a very, very light example of that, and for all of our benefit. The expression of talking about, say, blood, as in the blood that runs through my veins, the blood that runs through your veins, or the money that I have in my hand, money that you have in your hand. The grammatical structure of talking about those objects is in terms of our money, my share of our money, your share of our money, or my share of our blood, your share of my blood, or sorry, your share of our blood. Meaning that baked into our native language is a concept of that there are just certain things that are commonly shared with all of us.
Okay.
That we are happening to partake in, that we just happen to own or have dominion over at a given time.
Okay. So I did a video with my friend Irish Megaphone. I just put it up this morning, but I don't know. Have you any opinion on the elections that we just had?
I got listening to a few minutes just before we got on. I think the Irish and the British media have been doing a number on our heads here.
Okay.
This whole thing about a green wave.
Yeah.
2 MEP seats. Did I get that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, two seats is a green wave. My fucking hole, it's a green wave. And then in Britain, oh, the Remainers won the election. No, they fucking didn't. The majority party that won seats was Brexit in Britain.
Yeah.
It's reversed. While in Europe, you have the rise of populism. I think we were just kind of convinced that we'd done a lot worse than we thought.
Yeah.
And it seems to be deliberate. But I think we did well. When it comes to the locals, I want to, whatever your opinions are about that party, 3 local seats in the south, 1 in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Renewa got 2 seats, I believe. I may be mistaken,
I think it's
but
both.
at least 2 seats.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, but still, a lot of these candidates started out just weeks before the election.
Yeah.
They just got registered at the last minute almost, and they just we have a powerful activist network in Ireland now, especially since the referendum of last year. There's a lot of people out there who are determined to change the direction of the country, and I think they did such a great job at canvassing and supporting these local candidates that they got hundreds of votes in each constituency. When we're talking about Aontu and Renewa.
Mm-hmm.
And a few independents, I think that's a good sign for Ireland. When you consider how bloody apathetic we are,
Yeah.
I think we should be hopeful. I think this is, it's good for your health to be hopeful, but I also think that it's also called for to be hopeful now.
But what do you think, like the stranglehold that Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil have on half the electorate?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It almost makes you depressed each election, really.
What does it say about our psyche? Like other countries getting rid of their centrist, with a small c, parties, and
Well, let's call them what they are: establishment.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a certain portion of the votes that go to these parties that aren't actually real votes. Somehow they're rigging the situation, but not so much that there isn't still a fucking problem with people voting Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. What I think that is, all just stupidity. That's a part of it, but you have to take into consideration that we've only had democracy for like 100 years, right?
Yeah, about that.
It takes a while to get into the flow of actually embracing the process. We've had a situation of basically people taking the piss out of us, our government taking the piss out of us, to the point of, well, yeah, of course, most people don't get out and vote. I think we should look back at our ancient style of government, which is, semi-democratic in that, you voted for the local chief, but the main priority when you were choosing the chief was, well, what has this guy done for me? Again, my locality, did he do me any favors? Did he do the local community any noticeable good? And I think that's what the more countryside folk, even in the city, the country folk in the city are still wired for. So we can't, I'm always trying to, keep an actionable perspective on things, and I think that's helpful to.
As I was saying with my video that I put up today, I mean, I'm actually quite positive because I mentioned in my video that for me the penny has finally dropped, and I think that democracy is a kind of a sham. At least this kind of democracy, maybe not true democracy, where everybody has an informed opinion and is given, information about all the candidates. There's no such thing as
enough free media. Well,
censorship and
just media. Yeah.
And it's all equal in terms of finance, etc. And everybody has to come clean about who is pushing them from behind the scenes. Like, I mean, what kind of organizations do they
That's
represent.
one tall order, man.
I know, but so that's my point is
Yeah.
that I know it's kind of I think that these people that participate in this democracy, they're kind of, as I was trying to say, that they're the ones that are living in clown world. They're buying into this game. Like it's obvious that the politicians don't give a shit about ordinary people, so why play along with it? And I was making the point that what we're doing online, at least, like they would sneer at us and laugh at us and say, well, it's small, but at least we're making contacts, we're making friends, we're, speaking what's important to us, and we're trying to give it as free as possible to each other, and share ideas, and we're learning from each other, and I think that's more realistic. It's more real. There's more truth in that than pretending that democracy, that as we have it, is something to. It's your civic duty. It's something that we should be all proud of. I think that's bullshit. So I'm kind of I'm kind of feel liberated now. you know, um, I just find that it's totally nonsense, total nonsense. Um, so
I would be of the same mind. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, because at the end of the day, they don't really have power. They're only civil servants, really. They don't really have power. Okay, they might. How much power do they have over ordinary people, really? I mean, sure, they can tax you to the hilt, but they can't. They can't really suppress the truth. They can't. The way that the world is going, they can't stop what's going to happen down the line. I don't think they can.
No.
I mean,
There's a lot of desperate moves being made, and that's how
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I seen that you had a good video on abortion. I know it's a tough one to be talking about now, but you said I fear for their souls, which I agree with, and you said a nation of spineless bitches. I like that one. And uh, who do you think, like, what do you think was going through the people's minds when they were voting for abortion? I mean, to me, abortion is a no-brainer. I mean, it's like they keep trying to think like you're religious or you're Christian. I never look at it from that viewpoint. I just look at it like from the viewpoint of like Christopher Hitchens. It's a heart to be stopped. It's the crushing of limbs. It's the breaking of a skull.
Mm.
So what was going through the Irish? What the hell happened to them?
Yeah, it was weird. It was almost like overnight, our friends and family turned into NPCs that just rattled off these jingoisms.
Yeah.
There had to be some kind of PR agency behind this, some kind of marketing corporation that just figured out the Irish psyche, or already had it figured out decades ago. And we're given the task of like, well, what would you say to the Irish people to, simplify their thought processes to the point that they wouldn't be able to listen to reason?
Yeah.
Because that's what happened. We had a very reasonable position and a lot of very reasonable arguments.
But
Very few of us
they were
were
never
frothing at the mouth.
they weren't, sorry to cut across you, but they were never listened to. They always pushed the arguments to, like this Salvita lady, or all these things that rarely happen. Like women that need emergency surgery, etc., etc. Like the 1%. So
A female family member kept repeating to me after I gave her all the facts that I thought would trigger some thought in her head. She kept repeating to me, "Well, this is the first time women ever get a say in Ireland." Okay, really? Really? Women never had a say in Ireland. Okay, all right. You haven't read much of Irish history, so
But what is that say? What are they asking for? To kill their unborn
To
children?
murder children. Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It's
the most feminine thing in the world, the most beautiful thing in the world is for a mother to look after her son or daughter in the womb, or whatever. And
yeah,
I don't know how it could be a feminist thing, you know. But like
yeah.
we're men, so what do we know?
Oh yeah, I forgot we're not even supposed to be talking about this.
So do you think how can we, like, as an identitarian, how can you rejig the minds of these people, or what can you do to, you know,
Mm. Well,
electric shock treatment?
it's
Gulags?
it's not. Well, I think you're bringing up some good ideas here because it's clear that rational thought and uh, well explained ideas and arguments aren't really going to make a difference. These aren't going to make a huge impact on the majority of people. It's really an emotional thing.
Mm,
We need to get to people's emotions and get to people's immediate needs.
yeah.
As I've actually been questioning that part, actually, that last part, because if if medical treatment within a reasonable time period isn't an immediate need, then what is?
Yeah.
But it's a hard one.
Yeah.
But we're very emotional creatures here in Ireland, as you well know. Um, I think we kind of know deep down inside as well that a lot of what has been passed off to us as Irish national identity and Irish mythology is really crap,
Mm,
actually.
yeah.
Um, so we need to find a very easily accessible and inspiring um, channel for people to come back to their identity, because when they return to their identity as a people with uh, a sovereign body to be protected, then they will come back to reasonable positions like, no, we shouldn't be murdering children, and no, we shouldn't be giving all of our resources away to foreign entities. These
Yeah.
vastly complex and absurd ideas that we like to push.
Yeah. Well, John Walters said that. Walters, he did say that um, that we had the abortion debate was lost because they always resorted to facts and clear facts and science, and they just the uh,
Yeah.
repeal just played on emotions, and probably that's what we should have done to save the eight. But so that like, yeah. So I mean, we see that with like the Irish. We kind of have a Stockholm syndrome thing going on, that we had it with the English, and now we have it with the European Union, that we seem like we love we love someone to govern us because we think there's this Irish psyche, and I'm sure you've heard it many times. Sure, the Irish can't govern themselves. We wouldn't be able to look at the state of our politicians. We can't do anything
Mm-hmm.
properly. We need the European Union. It's like, what I just give the quote that you said, and I really liked. You said, being under someone's heel for so long, we lost our genetic memory of ever being autonomous. And I think that's true. We don't know what it's like to rule ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, we really don't. And it's just the same as any abused person that, yeah, the self-esteem has been ground down so much, and there's just no proper life experience, that the abused person keeps making mistakes, misjudgments, getting into trouble, and then the recrimination of, oh well, then I deserve to be in this abusive relationship.
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense, man. But it does when you explain it through the lens of, like John Waters, as you mentioned with him before, he touched upon that as well. That
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we just don't know ourselves.
Yeah. Well, it's getting to be a serious thing because, like, as Ireland is a vassal state of the EU, we've pretty much lost control over our budget, our finances, our land, our resources. They try to take our water. They'll probably go back to that.
Mm.
And our politicians are selling out our sovereignty like there's no tomorrow. And I see there was a thing in the paper. They're like Goldman Sachs are making a killing in Ireland with over the housing. They're making more money from housing, renting out big apartment blocks in Ireland than they are in Los Angeles or California or somewhere. It's just
That's
crazy.
Los Angeles, yeah.
Yeah, it's just that and I think, I don't know if I read this right, that they're thinking of selling some the waters to the Chinese so they can drill for oil. I don't know if that's off. Am I off my rocker in thinking that? I don't know.
What?
I
Maybe because I recently heard Gran Torino interviewed that fella from the NP, the guy with the long hair, and he's kind of a hippie. He's very knowledgeable in these things, so I have no reason to doubt him that they're selling our topsoil to Africa so that they can grow vegetables and then sell them to Spain or something crazy like
Well,
that.
just to stop you, I'm just checked it. Yeah, the government is given consent for off-sea drilling off Kerry. It's to Petroleum Europe, which is a subsidiary of the Chinese National Offshore Oil Company, and that's just one thing. I mean, I'm sure if you Google this now, you get it. China-backed oil drilling project in Ireland. Yeah, so I mean, they're selling everything off. It's total communist style run country. They'd be selling people off next. They're working
Mm.
farms or workshops somewhere out in Europe, or maybe they'll sign us up and sell us
Mm.
off. Um,
Yeah, the long-term unemployed, just ship them off to Dubai,
yeah,
They love their slavery over there.
yeah. I never mind about this new army they're talking about. So why? What happened to us? Like, I mean, I was reading a bit of my history the other day, and I was reading about Brian Boru and all the ancient High Kings of Ireland and stuff. I mean,
Mm.
what the hell happened to the Irish?
Yeah, like that we forgot this, like we literally was kangs, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to bring a meme into this, but like, still, seriously. Yeah, it's quite astonishing how quickly it's happened, because you look at subjugated native peoples all over the world, and uh, they're starting to remember who they are.
yeah,
They're starting to go back to their natural way of eating, their natural way of living, they're governing themselves more effectively, again, asking for their land back. But we're not, it's bizarre. It's
yeah.
bizarre. It deserves multiple theses.
Yeah, well, we talk about the rights of Palestinian people and things like that, but it doesn't seem that in the future Irish people have a right to their own land.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, for starters, if we spoke our own language, then, we would understand ourselves as a distinct people, and the rest of the world will too. So, it's always been a dream of mine that we, as a nation, apply to the United Nations as an indigenous people, which is described in their laws as any people who have been subjugated by a colonial government, which we have. So
yeah,
we
well,
have we have very special rights to Ireland
yeah, yeah.
and and our own living space, free of, you know,
Yeah.
other people in it.
So let's just the alternative scene in Ireland. I mean, there seems to be a lot of people now online thinking the same thing. perhaps not exactly the same thing, but moving in a kind of the same direction. Do you look at the other people on the scene, and what do you think? Like, what's happening online? Do you think there's a bit of a movement happening, or do you think it's gonna be forever online, and it's not gonna really make any difference in the long run? Or how do you feel about it?
I'm not going to make a call on that. Because I'm just an eternal optimist.
Okay.
But in saying that, I'm sure you can guess that I'm very skeptical, because it's just, as Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message, and the internet is one hell of a medium. It's kind of like crack to most people.
Yeah, yeah,
The continuous scrolling effect of Twitter and Facebook is not healthy. The constant coming out with news articles that every week there's something to get upset about, or there's
yeah,
something that the left gets upset about, and then the right gets upset that the left got upset about something.
yeah,
So that is a trap that, someone has to be around to say, hey guys, let's kind of pull out of that,
okay, yeah, yeah,
and let's actually do something, let's network in real life, because what happens there is you just kind of get lost in a hole, and then you become, what they say, black-pilled. You might cycle in and out of being black-pilled, but still you're in a unhealthy cycle in your life. You're disempowered, and
yeah,
something needs to come through a tear in reality, and kind
yeah,
of bring us out of that in a collective way.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure what that would look like.
No, sure.
Maybe it's happening slowly with Iontu and Renewa, and maybe Gemma O'Doherty, but I think she's a plant. People like that.
Okay. You said the abortion results showed we've lost the battle for the life of the unborn. Don't worry too much, though. It will serve as a wake-up call to our people. The lines have been very firmly drawn now, and we know what we're dealing with. And I just put that in because that's exactly how I saw it. I'm a pretty quiet person myself, even a little shy, I'd say. But I couldn't, I can't just do nothing when I seen that result, and I just seen the reaction of the people going crazy in Dublin Castle, because I know this is not a good thing for the soul of the country. So, you know, even my little videos, it's not really just spreading the message. It's helping me myself deal with things, and how should I say,
Mm.
it's like rather than shouting at the TV screen, this is what I'm doing instead. And I'm learning from other YouTubers like yourself, and I think Gran Torino has great stuff, and other YouTubers, and I might not agree with everybody, but I feel as a community, and I think that abortion thing was a wake up call for a lot of people, and in one sense that was rock bottom. And what we're seeing now is a small fight back, and it can only get better over time. We can only get stronger as a result of that, you know.
Yeah. Well, like I said near the beginning, in terms of the elections, like the reason why those small opposition parties even made this small, minute little dent that they did is because of that referendum. That woke people up, and that networked people. At least the Christian pro-life people, or sorry, the Catholic pro-life people,
Hmm.
and pro-life people in general.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, for the rest of us as well, yeah, it was a wake-up call. I was terribly depressed for about 3 months, but then you've got to spring back and say, right, okay, now's the time to do something.
Yeah. I see you're not a fan of the National Party, but I probably won't ask you that.
Uh,
You got a lot of pushback for that. Um,
yeah, yeah,
you,
people are sick of me talking about the National
yeah,
Party.
I
stage.
don't know. I mean, the thing with the alt-right is like they any little criticism of anything, and they're kind of a bit like the left. They just get hot-headed about it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
they think you're attacking them personally. You know.
Well, I mean, that's what you get from a group of 20-year-olds and then a group of people in their late 30s and early 40s who haven't grown up since their 20s.
Yeah. I mean, like if I had to be honest, like well, like my politics, like feel like I'm an anarchist libertarian, but like with a sprinkling of nationalism and like because I think as we alluded to, I think Irish nationalism is is very different to other forms of nationalism that we
Mm,
see. It's more soulful. But
mm,
if I said that on a video that I'm an anarchist libertarian, people would have a meltdown because they have this idea of anarchy. It's kind of like black bloc and
yeah.
rising, and it's not true anarchy is you know growing your own food. That's anarchy. You know, I mean, I have where I live now. There's a graffiti guy, and every day he goes around graffitiing all sorts of anarchist shit everywhere, and he does it on this corner on the corner on this big Italian restaurant. All this anarchy rules and all this bullshit, and every day the Italian guy has to come out and scrub it off or paint over it. And I was thinking, like, that's not anarchy because that Italian guy probably can't give his workers a Christmas bonus because he has to pay for bloody paint every bloody week to
Mm,
paint over all this. You know what I mean? That's not
yeah.
anarchy. And you see them black bloc. That's not anarchy. They all dress the same for a start, you know. But you know, and I see it on the left. He calls himself an anarchist, and he supports communism. Anarchists hate communists.
Yeah.
But they don't understand. It's like an anarchist is not left or right. An anarchist is not left or right. It's center, you know. But I
Mm.
mean, you can't say that. Even on the right now, they'd have a meltdown. I mean, look at libertarianism. Ron Paul. How could anybody think that Ron Paul is anything but a great man? You know.
Hmm.
Mm. You know,
Yeah.
he's the father of modern day libertarianism. You know. So anyway, sorry, I'm going on a rant there. But
Oh, it has to be said, look, we need to bring nuance to the conversation because, yeah, I mean, like, look at the way we structured our ancient society. It wasn't fascist, it wasn't socialist, it wasn't, I, I don't know, Keynesian or whatever, you know. It was a unique, and yeah, we need to open up the conversation that maybe we can kind of make our way back to that
Yeah.
sometime.
Well, I think like a lot of the old Gaels were anarchists really because uh, they looked after their communities and
It
uh,
was free association to start
yeah,
with, and it was capitalism with a little bit of socialism in there. You know, no
yeah.
one ever went hungry and homeless unless, you know, they were an asshole, and in which case, we sent them to live out in Connemara.
Yeah. I will do a video on anarchist libertarianism anyway one day just to
Dude,
explain it, you know. But
dude.
anyway, so you said you were black pilled for a while. I wonder what brought you back, if you don't mind me asking, like, or
Uh, it's intimately tied in with my own kind of internal
okay,
growth, my own journey in life, not really actually knowing what I'm truly about,
okay,
you know, and I think that's I don't think that's unique to me, you know. I think we look at the world and we see all the horror and we're overtaken by it, and how could you be overtaken by the outside world uh, if not only for like you just don't know who you are, you're not strong enough to stand in yourself
yeah,
in the face of that. Uh, and it's hard, man. It's fucking hard, you know. So it's like I have black pill hours, you know.
okay, yeah.
Like I think we all do if we're honest. But
Mm.
like in general, I've just programmed my mind to kind of see things through an optimistic lens, not a deluded lens,
Yeah.
but a logical but optimistic lens. Like what can we do now? What can I do? well, how can I improve my own life and the life of my family and the life of my community, and just do that, and give up, you know, in short, you know, I found faith, you know, I found faith. I can't control the world, man. I can't fix it, not me alone. Even in a group, I'm pretty sure that we'd fuck that up too. Um, it's in God's hands, you know. Anything beyond your sphere of influence, which is maybe a few kilometers around you, it's none of your fucking business. You know, you can pontificate upon it and you can say, well, in 10 years that's going to hit me in the face, so I better think about it. But, you know, man, you can't let it into your heart, man. You
Yeah,
know.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. I think your immediate surroundings. I mean, the world is a big place. You can't worry about it all the time. So you said your faith. Then,
Mm.
I was getting the impression that you weren't. I don't know if I'm wrong, but is well, is the church a part of this identity? Is it, or what? Like or do you go back to like pre-Christian, or what's?
For me, uh, the pre-Christian and the Christian is kind of like a blurred line, like by, say, you know, at least a few thousand years, you know, like
Yeah.
there's no definite change there, you know, and we had our own church before Rome decided that it would co-opt ours, and enforce their beliefs on
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
I don't think the Roman Catholic Church was ever a good thing, really. I think, you know, the church fathers, they're pretty cool. You know, I like them. I take their ideas on board, and they've helped me in my life, and they've helped many countless people. But as an organization, it has done nothing but bring pain to people who have, you know, in a religious sense, were anarchists. You know, they're pagans. You know, they're filthy deniers of the one true apostolic church,
Yeah.
and thus deserve to be persecuted in the most horrible means. I no, I can't turn around and give my allegiance to that kind of situation. Um,
Yeah.
I have my own faith. It's not Christian, but it's not Christian. It's not pagan, but not pagan.
Yeah. I think I kind of going through that kind of battle in my own mind as well. I mean, I
Mm,
have a big problem with the Roman Catholic Church, and I do know that there was a church in Ireland, traditional Irish church, before the Roman Church co-opted it. Like I was talking about Brian Boru, you know, he had a bit of both. He had a bit of the, you know, the what would you say, the Brehon laws and
mm,
that kind of paganism and ancient Irish laws of doing things, but he also had the early religion as well, and he kind of combined the two. He could see a bit positives in both, and of course at that time, uh, Irish priests could get married, for example, and they had
mm.
you know, there were the Irish religion was a bit, Irish Christianity was very different to what it is now, what's become now. It's kind of like
Yeah,
it's manufactured religions.
yeah, very
Uh,
much to McDonald's, basically.
yeah,
And the idea of priestly celibacy is actually really a program of genocide, because when you look at the way our ancient society was structured, as well as well, all across the world, really, the priest, or you know, whatever the locals called him, got married because, you know, he was also the king. You know, these
yeah,
things came in one package. That the sovereign that was elected by the people in a lot of cases was the priest also. And what the celibacy did was stopped priests from basically handing down both their property and their status as the priest to their sons and daughters. So it just kind of took those people out of the mix, and the people who actually responded to a higher calling would join the priesthood or become a monk and then also be taken out of the gene pool. So
Yeah,
it's a disgusting practice, really,
interesting.
especially when you consider that the alternative for these men is to uh, bugger little children, you know.
Yeah. You said I'm not white, I'm Irish. We were asked what it means to be Irish, and you said I'm not white, I'm Irish. I don't know. Is that similar to what Michael Jones goes on about?
Yeah, I was actually I wasn't familiar with E. Michael Jones, but I did come across his video about white guys, and yeah, how basically it's only really recently that yeah the different ethnic groups and the religious groups got mashed together into
Yeah.
white guys, if that's what you're referring
Yeah.
to.
Well, I mean, like, I've never thought of myself as white. I've never, ever, even, like, I don't think of myself as white or white nationalism or white power. I've never thought about that, but I've always defined myself as Irish, you know. And I can understand what E. Michael Jones is saying. Like, you had the Italians, you have the Irish.
Hmm.
It's kind of controlling us, isn't it? Just to throw us, lump us all into one big
Yeah.
block, call us white, and then we're evil now, aren't we? White man is bad.
Yeah, I personally never even identified anyone as white until I met my first black person who pointed out that I'm white and that all these other people are white.
Yeah. Yeah. Dangers we face in the future and solutions. You have a list of things. They're quite good though. I don't know if we have time to go through them all.
Mm.
Your solutions. Do you want to just go over them, or you think it's too much?
Yeah, we could spend a little time,
Yeah.
because they're, like,
So
hey,
I want.
I just put those things up there to hope that people grab onto them at some point and do something with them.
Well, I think it's good. I mean, it's good from my viewpoint because this is where I'm at the moment. I'm exactly at this point at the moment. As I said, a light bulb in my head just goes off, and I see how symbolic democracy is, and well, what's the alternative? And I see some of your ideas like talking to each other, meeting regularly, with like-minded people, establish lodges. Well, I don't know about that, but you could definitely have meetups and discuss ways of helping the communities. And I don't know.
Mm.
I mean, these are all things that I think we should be doing. I mean, like political stances from positions of power. But like, I mean, someone put a comment there that they have Lads Society in Australia, like a fraternal group. I don't know much about them, but
Mm.
I think like Casa Pond in Italy, what they're doing, I think that's good. A community-centered grouping where you help people in your local community, do it local rather than talking about
Mm.
the issues of the world. Bring it down to a local level,
Yeah.
and by your actions, you're hopefully bringing other people along with you. They see what you're doing, they hear what you're saying.
Mm.
I think I mean, that's exactly what I think. I mean, so
Well, like it was Gandhi or Jesus or both who said, "Be the change."
yeah,
Look, when we see someone, actually living their truth and living up to their own principles, then that wakens up the same thing in us, I think. Or it just makes us insecure because, we secretly hate ourselves, but, it's worth a try.
yeah, I don't know about that. So what about your channel then? How is it going? I mean, you've been on what, 3 years, 4 years now? Are you making
Since
waves?
yeah, 4 years since 2015, and it's only really been something that I would visit like once or twice a year. I would do write-ups every few months, but like when it comes to the website itself and things like that, as an idea, Irish Identitarian, I give it as much energy, well, a little bit more energy than I get back from it, because I've got my own things going on. Uh, it's it just had to be put out, it just had to be done. It just had to be, you know, made for my own peace of mind, just like you're doing this for your peace of mind.
Yeah.
And who knows what
Sorry.
will flower up in the future.
Yeah. Um, and what's the feedback like? I mean, I know
Mm.
you were on Margot's.
Yeah, that
Blog.
was actually, yeah, over yeah, Morgoth picked me up on, I think my first thing that I put out was I'm not white, I'm Irish, and this is an English group, and um I didn't look into it much because I just didn't want to get angry at anyone, which I probably would have. Um, but I'm told that I inspired conversation, and that's good, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Conversation is what we need. When previously a group that just kind of glossed over this subject
Yeah.
are suddenly triggered to talk about it. That's just my nature anyway, to do that. I just naturally upset people and get people to argue when really they didn't before. So
Yeah. So what do you think of the future then? I mean, how do you think things are going to pan out with the European Union and Brexit and
oh, I think that's just a slowly sinking ship, really. And
the way the way the world is going?
yeah.
Have we reached rock bottom? I don't know. I mean,
Hmm.
like New York aborting babies as soon as you know, I don't know, the third or the semester, trimester, whatever.
Trimester,
Yeah.
yeah.
And all this LGBTQ thing, I don't know, and teaching primary school kids how to masturbate. I don't know. I mean, I think we're at the rock bottom, and now they can't be any,
Yeah,
can
there's
they?
oh, we've got transhumanism to look forward to, but I think that I think we're already seeing the turning of the tide, when even just talking about abortion alone, you see states in America just turning around and saying, "Hey, wait, hang on.
Yeah,
If it has a heartbeat, how about we don't kill it?"
yeah,
And that is upsetting enough to the status quo, but it's still happening.
yeah,
So this is a sign of a good turn of events. I think we can actually turn the tide to retain some kind of sanity. But in my opinion, if we're not embracing our true history, as has been obscured from us for thousands of years, we're not going to reach a wholly healed world. We can only hope to avoid a situation like the 2000s happening again.
So how, like, just to finish off then, I mean, how can you get the Irish to return to the old ways? I mean, is there any special key that we can unlock to, apart from the language maybe, but
Mm.
is
I,
there any?
I, I see this, even though it wasn't really a green wave, it's still, we still voted Greens. A lot of us did,
Yeah,
apparently. I think we love and cherish our nature, even if we're in the middle of a city.
yeah,
We might have a vague notion of what it really actually truly means. Like some of us may have had the opportunity of venturing outside of our cities, like
yeah,
maybe 5 miles into the country, or ideally you've gone to Yates country in Sligo, or Come to the Burn, which I have the pleasure of living beside, or the Kerry Mountains, you know, or that lovely mountain in Belfast, you know. We're coming to the point now where, you know, it might come in the form of socialist nonsense and carbon tax, but at the core of it, we want to get back to our roots in terms of nature, and nature has always been a part of the Irish people,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that if we change tact politically, and so you know, in terms of our conversations, to, you know, open it up to like, okay, well, how can we reintegrate with nature and love nature and be a part of it,
Yeah.
for its sake, as well as our health and for the spiritual quality. I think that will be the portal through which the Irish will find that, oh wait, you know, there's a meaning to this world that God gave us. It's not just other life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good point. Yeah. I didn't think of that. Like, yeah, so it's kind of just pushing them in the right direction then. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I'm cynical
like,
enough still though. Yeah.
but like it's well, it's they see they're very arrogant that they think that we don't care about the environment, we don't love nature, you know? It's like that they have the monopoly on you know enjoyment of their surroundings. Like, I mean, like I go for a walk in the countryside. Like I live beside a little wooded area, and I go every most nights go for a nice walk. And like for me, that's it's kind of like a spiritual thing, you know. I mean, I don't
It
listen to
is.
any music. I walk and smell the fresh air. You know, look at the trees, the leaves, the nature. You know, listen to the birds. I mean, that's it. I mean, and I get high off that. It's as good as any drug.
Mhm.
But you know, it's like that. I'm not allowed. You know, just because I don't want to pay carbon taxes or something. You know.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes you a bad person.
yeah.
Well, the thing about the Green Party is that they actually originate from a crazy cult in Germany that wanted to, or still wants to, destroy most people for the sake of the environment, and also they want to have sex with children. So their idea of loving nature is just totally absurd, and you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Well, I've seen that they call them watermelons, isn't it? Red in the inside and yellow or green on the outside.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there one of the guys in Germany who was caught for pedophilia, wasn't he? The leader of the German Green Party.
Oh wow. Okay. Well,
I leave
yeah,
a link.
yeah.
It's good. It's a good thing to say. 'Cause,
Mm.
there is a good video online which explains it in detail, so I can put a link to it. Um,
Wow.
so Irish Identitarian, thanks very much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Loved
Um,
every moment of it, man.
I'm sorry I have to go on. Perhaps we can chat again about something in the future. Yeah, the time flies, you know. It was a good chat, and I think we kind of probably went through it a little fast. We could have maybe got into some of the topics a little deeper, but
I think a part two is called for.
it's a good outline of your channel, I think, and where you're coming from, which is basically, um, returning to the old ways, the Irish culture and of the past, and appreciating what we have in our country, you know. Like we're kind of swamped with this globalization and looking outwards when we should be looking at our own country inwards, you know. It's a great country, really, Ireland, you know.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100 bits.
so thanks, man, and I appreciate it.
All right. Cheers.